This is a Thompson Cast. I am Mel Thompson. Nothing will create an opportunity for foreign direct investment like an international conference or a sporting event. We've seen recently how the Olympics can transform an entire country, but specifically areas where venues are built. The economic opportunity springs up because of the construction jobs, the businesses that spring up to house and serve athletes and spectators. The same thing happens when you have international conferences. The recent one, the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation Group, that met in Vladivostok, Russia, caused the entire city of Vladivostok to transform essentially overnight. There have been major upgrades to the airport, and there have also been major upgrades to highways, bridges, and a area where there are some towers. And what they've basically done is cleaned up the entire area, made it very, very palatable to people coming in for the conference, and essentially made this one of the most beautiful cities in Russia. Not that it wasn't before, but they've done some work, let's just say. What this does do is create a sense of economic entitlement. And rightfully so. Why would you want your city not to maintain the upgrades that it just received? Of course you would. And when businesses see the upgrades, they tend to look at opportunities to improve their own marketing power because they now have more opportunities to obtain customers who want to come to the city because of the upgrades. Vladivostok is a good opportunity here, and the only issue is that it's in Russia. And as we know, Russia is not the easiest place in the world for foreign direct investment. There's also issues of free speech that President Putin is doing his best to tamp down on. And all of these issues are a political risk. However, the potential for investing in a place like Vladivostok, where there has been substantial upgrades by public funds, is something that can't be ignored. No matter where this may happen, whether it's in Vladivostok or it's in Great Britain before the Olympics and even after the Olympics, the opportunities are overwhelming. These upgrades are going to last for a substantial amount of time. You're going to have better transportation, you're going to have more businesses, and you're going to have the opportunity to invest in these businesses and invest in other businesses that rely upon them. It's a system that's giving birth to one opportunity after another. And the mother of it just happens to be whatever the event is that came to town. Now, when you look at Vladivostok as the most recent example, there's a $1 billion bridge that leads to the Russian island, the southernmost part of Vladivostok, and site of a brand new American-style university campus. The leaders are going to be holding talks there Saturday and Sunday, and when the university classes resume, it will be home to 25,000 students. The key there is when it resumes, they will be having that many people there. Those are 25,000 people that are economic opportunities. So in other words, the upgrades created that opportunity. The talks on Saturday and Sunday are going to be there for a short period of time, and that is a short-term opportunity. The university is a long-term opportunity in Vladivostok, and the same thing applies to certain types of businesses that spring up in London prior to the Olympics. If they were in business before the Olympics and they improved, they are still doing well a couple weeks after the Olympics. If in fact they spring up during the Olympics, they're probably still there and they're probably going to do well for a while. My point is, track any large scale policy meeting of foreign leaders. Look for sporting events, whether they be soccer, track and field, other types of major events popular in certain parts of the world. Find out where they are, do your research in that area, and look for opportunities because you're going to have them. Public funds will be used to clean up and upgrade cities when the cities are going to be the public face of a country for a period of time, whether it's a weekend, a week, a month, or however long it may be. Public events such as meetings of leaders and sporting events always create economic opportunities, particularly in transportation, in food, and also in financial areas. And it's not a easy thing to ignore, nor is it a hard thing to have figured out. It's just pretty obvious. Follow the event. It's all you have to do, and I think you're going to see that you're going to have some fantastic opportunities. And one other thing I want to point out is that the example of Vladivostok is somewhat humorous in the way it's been portrayed in the media, only to the extent that it just seems people are stunned and shocked by the way that the city's been completely transformed, as they would say, almost overnight. They should have seen this coming once this meeting was announced. So my point is, when you see these reports about, wow, the city looks great, it's been transformed because this event's coming up next week, tomorrow, whenever, you're a little late. You should have been involved by tracking this event when it was announced, because you want to get on the ground floor of new opportunities, which are better than jumping in the middle of older opportunities that had to rely on public funds to be upgraded and become new opportunities. But as always, the political risks are entry to the markets, particularly in Russia. In some areas, you may have civil unrest protesting these types of events. Usually not at sporting events, but you definitely will have some degree of civil unrest when you have politicians coming to town, because there will always be activists, and rightfully so, who will be protesting policies that they disagree with that are pushed by these particular leaders. Where that is obviously a political risk are the slowdown in transportation, possibly slowing down the financial markets, and any damage that would occur to brick and mortar investments. But my point is, when you start seeing things in the newspaper and you find them somewhat funny when the words transformed overnight are used, which is usually and actually impossible to be true, you're probably looking at an investment that is, as a foreign direct investor, that is a little too late to jump on board. However, there's always retail. And once again, the political risks are entry to market and also avoiding people who are engaged in any type of fraudulent conduct that would make you run afoul, innocently or not, of the U.S. laws that prohibit engaging in any type of bribery or corrupt practices. And I'm specifically talking about the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. However, you can't be completely inoculated from this if, in fact, you're dealing with middlemen and third-party people who you don't know. Just make sure that when you enter a market, you find people who are trustworthy, who have a track record, and if they're engaged in something that you have no idea about, just make sure you can show that. Make sure you don't engage in any type of Foreign Corrupt Practices Act violations. but certainly look for new opportunities, particularly around sporting events and meetings of political leaders. This has been the Thompson Cast. I am Mel Thompson.